I told you things about my mom to manipulate your emotions. When I told you things about my mom, negative things, I knew then that I would be able to use you, use things against you, or use my inability to love, care, hold, cuddle. Use that, my inability to do those things against you from my mom. When I told you I had mommy issues, I wanted you to feel sorry for me. So therefore, when we got into an argument and I would say, you ain't my, you're not my mother, my mother, start snapping, you would back down. You would become quiet. You would console me. You would apologize to me for hurting your feelings. So I used your emotions against you when I told you things about my mom. This is hard. But if a man doesn't talk about his mom, doesn't praise his mom, you are going to suffer. If a man doesn't respect his mom, you're going to suffer. If a man doesn't take you to visit his mom, you're going to suffer. Any girlfriend I had in Cleveland when I was a recruiter from 92 to 96, I never took them to see my mom because I was embarrassed. My mom started smoking crack around 1985, and then in 2011, the drug dealer took her to the hospital. And I used to not pray, but I used to think about and fantasize about hurting him. But anyway, he dropped her off at the hospital in 2011, 2012. She went, it was a nursing home. Then 2011, 12, she went into hospice and she died from her crack addiction. They removed both of her legs. She had all kind of stuff going on. But yeah, my mom was a crackhead from 1985 to about 2011. I am able to talk about this now. And in my life, I became a baseball player. I played football. We had a basketball court in our backyard. All those things was because of my mother. I was a Cub Scout because of my mother. My mother was my first den mother. This is my mother. My mother taught me how to think differently. My mother taught me to understand personalities. And this was at a young age. I learned how to swim because of my mother. I was a part of the YMCA because of my mother. I was mentally strong because of my mother. In 2012, my sister shipped my mother to California where she lived at. And she was in hospice. And so as soon as I walked in the hospital, the lady said, you must be her son. And I said, why did you say that? She said, because your mother's been here for 6 months and she's never smiled. When I laid in the bed next to my mother as she died, she smirked and I rubbed her hair. And that's when I got closer to my mother. My whole career, I wasn't close to my mother. So I wasn't close to women. I wasn't close to my ex-girlfriend. I wasn't close to my ex-wife. I was always running and fighting. But what I learned is that my mother was the reason why I had become so strong. My mother was the reason why I took chances. My mother's the reason why I was so driven and motivated. My father did too. He had things. I had my father's traits too. But my mother, she changed her name to Gypsy when she got divorced. But my mother's the reason why I was so successful. In 2014, my therapist said, okay, Mr. Walker, today we're going to talk about your mother. And I was like, I turned into a little kid. I started crying. I said, I don't want to do that. She said, this is part of therapy. This is my mother. This is my mother's ashes. And so in 2014 in therapy, we talked about my mom. I realized that everything my mother did for me, for my sisters, for my brothers, is the reason why we became successful. My dad was there too, but he was working a lot and he drank a lot. But my mother stood the test of time. And I fell in love with my mother again in 2014. I apologize to my mother. I talk to my mother every day. This is my mother. So if you folks, those of you that are mad at your mother, make amends. Get into therapy. Therapy helped me out with me and my mother. Brought us back together again. And I understand women now because I started understanding my mother. But this is my mother. Love your mother. Don't wait too late. Fix your relationships. Love you, mommy. Hey, y'all have a great day.